Hello, guys. A very good morning. It is on a Sunday, the 7th of September 2025. So, this is the story of how Kenya recruited young men from Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Isiolo, basically northeastern Kenya, and also parts of coastal Kenya to fight for the Rascamboni brigade and eventually join the Jubaland forces. The soldiers that you see right now, the Jubaland forces that you see right now, who are in Mandera and are causing mayhem in Mandera, are Kenyans. 99% of them are Kenyans. And that's why the Jubaland forces, the rest of the Jubaland forces, that is the Jubaland administration, and the rest of the Jubaland forces or forces allied to the Jubaland administration are not coming to their aid. And this is why the Somali National Army is attacking them. This is why the Somali National Army doesn't want them within Somalia. So basically, these guys are all Kenyans, but I'll give you a story of how General Karangi, Mwai Kibaki, and Yusuf Haji recruited about 10,000 young men to fight alongside the Kenya Defence Forces with the promise that they will be absorbed by the Kenya Defence Forces, and also some of them will be absorbed by the Kenya Police Service. But it never happened. So this story began in mid 2011. That is, was at the peak of when foreigners were being abducted from the Dab, that is in Garissa, and also the coastal part of Kenya. So basically, also let me tell you that these foreigners were not being abducted by Al-Shabaab. They were being abducted by clan militias that wanted to pull Kenya into this war. So that will be a story for another day. But let me now explain to you how about 10,000 young Kenyans were taken to Manyani from Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Isiolo, and also coastal part of Kenya, were taken to Manyani for a 3-month training. They were trained by instructors from the Kenya Defence Forces. And after that, that is in 2011, mid 2011. And by September 2011, they were in the front lines. So in October 2011, Kenya Defence Forces also joined the war. So these guys were used to clear the way for the Kenya Defence Forces in southern Somalia. But the plan was to train them to fight for the Jubaland forces, to fight for this guy. So this guy was the leader of Rascamboni Brigade. That this is Ahmed Madwe, the current leader of Jubaland. He cut off from the rest of Al Shabaab because he was a leader within Al Shabaab. He was a leader in the Islamic Court Unions. The Islamic Court Unions were dismantled in 2006 and 2007 by the Ethiopian government. Then after that, he joined Al Shabaab. Then he couldn't stay with Al Shabaab. So in 2009, he abandoned Al Shabaab. He cut off with fighters. He called himself and his fighters the Rascamboni Brigade. So they decided to hide within Rascamboni. Rascamboni is an area within near Kismayo. It's a very forested area, just a few kilometers from Boni Forest to the side of Somalia. So he decided to hide there and fight. Then it came to the point that foreigners, aid workers who are foreigners working in the Dab Kenya and also in coastal part of Kenya, that is in Lamu, were being abducted. And these guys were not being abducted by Al Shabaab because Al Shabaab made it clear. And it happened that later they were released because they were being held by who? By clan militias. And these clan militias were demanding ransom. So this story is very complicated. And the Jubaland forces that you see now who are fighting, who are, running into Mandera every now and then. So in 2022, 2023, 2024, and even 2025 now, they keep running into Mandera. Ask yourself why. And when the Kenyan media interviewed them, they were speaking in pure Kiswahili. These are Kenyans. I know several who are, my neighbors in Garissa, and I know very many who are recruited from Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, and also Isiolo, and also parts of coastal Kenya. So these young boys were recruited and promised that after the war, after they clear the way and the KDF, enter Somalia, they will be absorbed into the Kenya Defence Forces, and also some of them will be absorbed into the Kenya Police Service. It never happened. So when they fought alongside Ahmed Madowe and fought, that is in September 2011, they fought hard and they captured Kismayo with the help of also Kenya Defence Forces. They captured Kismayo in late 2011. What happened is that Ahmed Madowe disowned them. He never fully, absorbed them into his forces, that is the Rascamboni Brigade or the Jubaland forces. So once the Jubaland was created, they were supposed, Ahmed Madowe was supposed to, take them in as his soldiers. So he disowned them because they are Kenyans. He had his own fighters from his own clan. So what happened is that he decided to give them weapons and technicals, and tell them to go and live or stay at the Kenyan Somali border, that is in Belet Hawa, in Doble, also in the near Lamu. So these guys were staying in 3 different places, but along the Kenyan Somali border. So they were very close to Kenya, and they were never actually officially part of the Kenya Defense Forces or part of the Kenya Police Service or part of even Kenya, and they were never also part of the Jubaland forces. So this is very confusing, and it's very sad that these young boys are Kenyans. They were, picked by being promised that they will be recruited or they will be absorbed after recruitment, and after they fight and clear the way for the Kenya Defense Forces, and fight in the front lines and clear the way so that the Kenya Defense Forces can capture Kismayo, they will be absorbed into the Kenya Defense Forces. That is during Karangi's time. During Karangi's time, during Kibaki's time, during Yusuf Haji's time, that is in 2011. So what happened is that these guys fought. Very many of them were killed. There were about 10,000 who were trained in Manyani. About 5,000, I'll say, were killed, and the rest, remained. So about also 2,000 of them pledged allegiance to Al-Shabaab because they were abandoned by both Kenya and Jubaland. So now what we are seeing is that the remnants of what is remaining of the young Kenyans who are recruited to fight for the Rascamboni brigade. And now they are calling themselves the Jubaland administration. The remaining ones, these ones that you see now who are fighting in Mandera, have decided to remain, they have decided, to stay put and call themselves the Jubaland forces, though they are not, considered as Jubaland forces or even Somalis. And that is why the Somali National Army now has moved about 2 divisions. 2 divisions of the Somali National Army are based now in Gedo region, one in Belet Hawo near Mandera, and another one within Gedo town. So their aim is to make sure that these young Kenyans who are fighting for Jubaland don't come back to Somalia. And they keep, shelling Mandera town every now and then. And also, you ask yourself why the Kenya Defense Forces has allowed them to set, base within Mandera. That is very abnormal. So these guys were the young Kenyans who were picked from Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Isiolo, and Lamu, and then part of coastal Kenya. And they were promised that they should fight. Once they fight for the Rascamboni Brigade, they will either join the Rascamboni Brigade or they will be absorbed by the Kenyan security forces. But it never happened. They were abandoned. Left in a no man's land, and they decided now to stay put. And they're actually very peaceful. They decided to stay put within the Kenyan Somali border, just along the Kenyan Somali border, and they don't fight Al-Shabaab, they don't fight the Kenya Defense Forces. They, pretend to be Jubaland forces, but they are not Jubaland forces because Jubaland has, disowned them. For the last 2 months, these guys ran away into Kenya. They ran from Belet Hawo into Kenya. Belet Hawo is just like 10 kilometers from Kenya, from Mandera. So they ran into Mandera. They were running away from the Somali National Army. Why? Because the Somali National Army does not consider them as Somalis. They don't consider them as, as Jubaland forces. And the Jubaland forces who are supposed to come to their aid, who are based in Afmedo and parts of Gedo, and also in Dolo and also in Kismayo, never came to their aid. You ask yourself why they never came to their aid. So these are young men who are, recruited in Manyani. They are Kenyans. They were picked from the streets of Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, and coastal towns, and they were brought into Manyani. They were trained by Kenya Defense Forces instructors. That is in mid 2011. And in September 2011, they were actually inside Somalia fighting, and they were fighting alongside Ahmed Medowe. They were actually fighting to help an Islamist capture Kismayo. So I will talk about how Kenya actually, that is in